Is December the best time to list your house? That's the question. If you stick with us, Lizette and I are going to answer today.
You better get fired up.
Happy Monday, Lizette. How are you?
I'm great, Joe. You're sounding really good. How are you?
I'm getting better. I still sound like I'm a 13-year-old boy, but I'm getting there. We'll get there eventually. But thank you. I appreciate that. So it is November 13th, and we're what, a week? Oh my gosh, a week and a half away from Thanksgiving. And
Yes.
we're probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 weeks away from Christmas. Then you got New Year's, and then you still got work Christmas parties going into January, people taking down all their Christmas lights. There's about a 2, 3 month period there where you've got a lot of holidays going on. So a big question from a lot of people thinking about selling is this really the best time to put our home on the market? So what I did is I pulled some great stats I'm going to share with you guys. Some of these stats are older, and there's a reason. I want you to see what my thought process would be as a realtor giving you a recommendation on whether or not you should be selling. But these are some of the data points that I would ask your realtor to pull for your specific market, your specific area, your specific price point when you're going to put it on. So here's the stats. And I literally pulled these stats about 20, 30 minutes ago. So these are fresh from the MLS, right? What I looked at is I looked at November to the end of January. So you got November, December, January, a 3 month period. And I picked another period that was kind of offset, right? Somewhere where I would think would be a little bit hotter. So I picked April 1st until July 1st. You've got that first month of school being out, the month of June. You're able to get out there, purchase homes so that you're ready by the time September hits. And so I just picked a random 3 month period and I'm comparing the two, right? And I went back 3 years to see which period had more sales. So when you look back at 2022 and you look from April 1st until the end of July, or I'm sorry, April, May, June until July 1st, we had 1,912 sales in Port St. Lucie, right? 1912. But if you go back a few months prior and look from the beginning of November to the end of January, we had 1,716. So there were actually 11% more sales on average per month in April, May, and June than there were in November, December, and January, right? So that would lead you to think, well, I should just wait until April, May, June. Let me go back another year to 2021. It was 2,070 sales in April, May, and June versus 1,677 in the holiday months, right? That's a 23% reduction in the amount of buyers out buying homes. And if you go back the year prior, it's a 3% reduction, right? So you got 11, 23, and a 3% reduction. What does this tell me? This tells me that every year is different. So to give you a blanket statement that says, hey, it's great to sell in the winter or it's not great to sell in the winter is honestly, in my opinion, statistically, a poor recommendation. Really, you've got to look at each year, year by year, and take that into consideration, right? Here's another thing that I'm looking at more than even sales numbers is what is your ratio? And I'm going to give you an example, right? Let's just say for easy numbers, in those summer months, let's say that there are 1,000 sales, right? And let's say that there are 2,000 for sale. Well, 1,000 into 2,000 means you got a roughly 50% chance of selling. Now, in the winter months, let's say there are 500 that sell. That's only half of the 1,000 that sell in April, May, and June in this mythical scenario. But if there are 500 for sale, that means 500 of the 500 or 100% are selling. So even though the numbers are lower on sales, that ratio or your odds of selling are higher. So you want an agent who's going to go in and look at all this data specifically for that year, specifically for your market, specifically for your price point to give you those data points, right? Here's the last thing I'll share. And then Lizette, I'd love to hear your feedback on this and what you're telling your sellers is when you get buyers in April, May, and June, typically speaking, I'm generalizing because there's exceptions to any rule, right? Typically speaking, they're not nearly as motivated as a buyer who's out shopping during Thanksgiving, during Hanukkah, Christmas, New Year's Eve. They're not nearly as motivated. If you've got a couple who's out looking at homes on December 23rd, trust me, those guys are motivated. So I always want to bring that up too, right? So again, I wouldn't say it's a good time or a bad time to sell. What I would say is you need to get with your realtor if you're serious about it. And if you have the ability to wait, some people don't. And in that case, why even ask the question? But if you have the ability to wait and it is a financial based question, you need a realtor who can do the analysis. Lizette, what are your thoughts?
Those are great points, Joe. I want to add, specifically for the seller out there that doesn't know, do I want to list my house or not right now? If you have that need to sell and you need to get out of your property and you want to start fresh in the new year, also think of our location. What a benefit that we have snowbirds coming into town.
Yep.
They are now back in the area, their families visiting, they're hosting the holidays in their homes, and their families coming down as well. So now you're also opening the door to a whole pool of other buyers that usually aren't here in the spring or summer months. So that's an advantage. The other advantages, like what you were stating, is the motivation. If they're out looking during the winter months instead of doing Christmas shopping and setting up decorations,
Yeah.
they have a need and they are urgently looking to buy and purchase now. So that gives you the upper hand as well as the seller. And lastly, I would like to point out is what a beautiful setting to walk into a home, see it decked out for the holidays,
Yeah.
and have that feel that
Home.
your buyer, yeah, is already imagining in their head where they will put the Christmas tree. Well, they don't have to imagine it, they're actually
Yeah.
seeing it. Or Hanukkah or whatever holiday it is that you celebrate. It's just an amazing staging opportunity to make that buyer feel at home and welcomed.
Yeah, those are great points. I'll tell you, I sold in Minnesota for 6 years. And because it's 20, 30 below in January, and in the summers it's 80, 90, 100 degrees, there is a monumental difference in the amount of listings you see on the market. In fact, we sold very little December, January, and February. And you knew like March 1st was the biggest day of the year in Minnesota for a realtor because that was the day, the week that you started calling everybody who over the winter had said, give me a call in the spring and I'll list my house. March 1st, let's call them up, right? We don't have that here because the weather is so much more consistent, right? A cold winter day is 68 degrees here, which is still pretty decent. So you got people out doing things. And like Lizette said, we've got a little bit older crowd here in Florida, right? States like Arizona, you've got a little bit more older folks down here. They're not really hinging on the weather as much. They're not hinging on school starting. It's a little bit different. Looking at trends too, I'm seeing inventory had kind of hit the lowest point about a year ago, and it's been slowly coming up. So if anything, if I can sell now or I can sell in 6 months from now, and I'm looking at inventory rates, I can say with, I don't know, probably 70, 80% assurance, unless something really unique happens, that inventory rate is going to continue to go up. I haven't seen it go up sporadically. I've seen it consistently go up this much, but go up every single week while we track this data, right? I just put a post up on my Facebook page. Go look at the last 6 weeks or 42 days, and you'll see how consistent that increase in inventory is. If you're going to wait another 6 months as that number goes up, your odds of having to compete with more homes also goes up, right? So if I'm looking at this year specifically and it's a financial based decision only and you can wait, I would say put it on the market now because all the trends we're seeing state that there's going to be an increase in inventory. Could that be wrong? Absolutely, right? Nobody's the real estate guy, but that would be my best guess. And if you were my daughter, my sister, my mom, I would tell you put it on now versus waiting for May, June, July. Any last final comments, Lizette?
I always have at the end of the year a few handful of investors that I reach out to too, because sometimes they just got to get money off of their books. And this
Great
is the
point.
time of year
Yeah.
that they have to make that purchase. They've got to get that tax cut off right off in before the 31st of December. So that's another set of buyers that you're all actually marketing to as well. So keep that in mind.
Awesome points. Well, guys, I appreciate you joining me this beautiful Monday. If you guys have any questions or comments, feel free to put them down and we'll always respond. And if you've got ideas for future videos, you can reach out to either one of us and we're happy to get it up and rolling in the future. Lizette, I appreciate you. Thank you.
Have a good one, guys.